This team, I know it's not pretty right now, but I feel like we're getting better in a lot of areas. We were 3-3 and going to Oklahoma, I think, if I remember correctly. Now we're 3-3 and we got, Oklahoma coming to town.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. Matt Dowell and Jared Parker with you after LSU and South Carolina's game down in Baton Rouge. We did not go to this game, so we don't have any behind the scenes for you when it comes to the atmosphere at Baton Rouge, but we did watch on TV from our couches. Jared's at the station here in Columbia for us this week. So that's how we took in this game. Also, I'm doing my best. We're recording this at past midnight, so it is quiet in my household. So I'm trying to have energy, but also not whisper. So if it sounds at any point like I'm whispering, everybody just bear with me because I got a sleepy household here while we're recording this podcast. But Jared, it was a tough night for South Carolina, and it was another winnable game on the road, but also another sloppy game that was messy.
Yeah.
It had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns, but either way, South Carolina loses to LSU 20-10. They're 3-3 on the season. Jared, what are your initial reactions from this?
I mean, sloppy game is the perfect way to put it, just with the way the game started. That really seemed to be the tone for the game, that this was going to be a sloppy game where the Gamecocks just tripped over themselves. I mean, if I told you that South Carolina had three goal line stops, two of them resulting in turnovers and one in a field goal, you would be like, oh, that's a game that they ought to have won. And they didn't.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think what is hardest for me, now we're officially halfway through the season now. We are officially, 50% of the way through the regular season. I think what has stood out to me about South Carolina is none of the games have been pretty. It's been hard to
Hmm.
watch. Every game has been a struggle just to watch, to take in. It hasn't been pretty. I still don't really know what the identity of the team is this year, and we're halfway through. And I think that is the most frustrating part of watching this team is that it just hasn't been good football. I think there were moments against Virginia Tech. There were,
Yeah.
Kentucky was probably the most positive game so far this season, but especially to come out of a bye week, Jared, this week with this level of play, I think was the most disappointing because I think I
Hmm.
was kind of looking at, okay, what did they do during the bye week? What were some of the big takeaways, and what were they going to improve and adjust and all that kind of stuff? And to me, it was just kind of the same story. So that's why when, I'm writing down my notes and getting ready for this reaction podcast, it kind of feels like the same notes that I've had for 5 weeks. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that coming out of the bye week, and again, my mind continues to go back to that first play. We know that teams script their first drive, so you have to have some type of assumption that this is probably a play that has been in their system. We like this play a lot for at least 2 weeks now, and for that to happen, has to be disappointing on their end. But yeah, it's like you said, it feels like the same game. Kentucky was more positive, a win, and they looked better in that win. But the offense just continues to leave us wondering, when are we going to see that game from the
Yeah.
offense where they turn it on? And like you said, 50% through the season, now it leaves you wondering, are we going to see that game?
At this point I think the offense is who they are, and I
Mhm.
don't even know what they are. I don't know how to define what the R is, but I think that they have shown us for 6 games now this, and I think that's just what we're getting in this game. Jared, was so interesting because it feels like LSU should have won this game by like 21 points, but it
Yeah.
also feels like South Carolina could have won it. It was such a
Mhm.
strange game because both teams came into this game with offensive struggles. Both teams came in with pretty good defenses. So they both were kind of had very similar stories to their season. So I was interested to see who stepped up. And like you said, from a positive standpoint, I thought South Carolina's defense was pretty fantastic tonight. I thought that they did
Absolutely.
everything they possibly could to give South Carolina opportunities to win this game, to put the offense in good positions. I mean, how many goal line stops, how many turnovers, all that did they come up with tonight? I think if you're Shane Beamer, I think if you look at the defense, I think all you can say is great job because I don't know
Yeah.
what South Carolina could have asked from their defense more tonight than what they did because I thought the defense in a hostile environment was outstanding, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, you as a defense, you want to put your offense in a position to score and win. And that's what they did tonight. You look at DQ Smith, a forced fumble and an interception, and then the Peyton Williams interception, the goal line stops they had. They did everything that a defense, they did more, really. When you think about against a ranked team at Death Valley, they did more than what they were expected to by me. I'm pretty sure they did more than what many of us expected them to do. So you can't, I have no fingers to point at the defense. If I could find a flaw with them, I really don't know what I'd pick because they were on point. They held LSU. I mean, 20 points overall on the night, but uh, yeah, they did what they were supposed to.
Yeah, I think the defense was, I actually think that was probably the defense's best game of the season. When you look at the caliber
Yeah.
of opponent, the environment, all of that, I thought the defense was great. But let's look at the offense, Jared. Same story that we've seen all season.
Mhm.
This is going to be harsh, man, but the O-line is bad. I mean, they are very bad, and they are maybe one of the worst offensive lines in college football right now. When you look at Lenore Sellers, for me, it's hard to judge what he's doing and like the level of his play because I feel like he has no time to do anything. I mean, how much of his night was just scrambling because he had no options? I don't know. I just something, if I'm Shane Beamer, changes have to come somehow, some way, whether it's on the O line, if it's the staff. I don't know what the answer is, but the O line has been bad all season. Tonight was atrocious from the O line. So I don't know your thoughts on that, but to me, the O line is hard to watch.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, you had what, 5 sacks, and 5 sacks don't paint the whole picture because I mean, 5 sacks is really lucky. That's they were fortunate to only have 5 sacks tonight. And if you watch the game, if you're watching this, you know why I'm saying that. It was rough. Lenoris was on the run consistently. I don't blame all the sacks on the O line because there was a couple where LSU blitzed and whether it's the center's responsibility or Lenore's, it was unrecognized, but still 5 sacks plus all the times he had to scramble where he was forced to have intentional groundings. Just so many things that when you go back and watch, it goes down to the protection. They had a few good moments, like on the Matt Fuller 72-yard run. That was a bright spot, which leaves you wondering, okay, this is what they look like when they can really be at their best. And obviously, a lot of that is credit to Fuller making that run in the open field, but it's something has to be fixed there, whether
Yeah.
it's the play calling, whether it's the actual protection individually, something has to be fixed.
And I think when you go off of that, the frustrating part is I don't think Matt Fuller touched the ball again in the first half, if I'm
No,
mistaken.
I don't
So
remember him.
again, again, that's another questionable offensive thing of why did that happen? But I think there's frustrations all around from those of us watching here, those in Baton Rouge, especially with Shane Beamer. And Shane Beamer was very, very frustrated in the press room, as you can imagine after this game. Here's what he had to say about his team's loss to LSU.
Fortunately, we were 3-3 at this time last year, and we were on the road at Alabama and lost a heartbreaker that came down to a 2-point conversion and a throw to the end zone at the end of the game. And I walked out of that, walked off that field sick to my stomach because we had just lost the game, and told our players in the locker room that I hurt for them because, of how much they put into it. And these guys tonight, I mean, they were so freaking awesome tonight, our players, just the effort they played with. And we expected to win this game. I mean, we did, and had our opportunities to. So you draw on last year that we were 3-3, and we rallied and continued to get better. And this team, I know it's not pretty right now, but I feel like we're getting better in a lot of areas. And we were 3-3 and going to Oklahoma. I think, if I remember correctly. Now we're 3-3, and we got Oklahoma coming to town. So there's things you can take from it, Jordan. But certainly we need to be able to, like I told our team in the locker room, quit kicking our own butts, and before we start, kicking other teams' butts. And there was too much of that tonight. Just some of the, going backwards when we're in scoring position and have a chance to really take control of the game. And that's the disappointing thing, is we had opportunities tonight to really, I don't want to say necessarily take control, but really take momentum and dominate the fourth quarter like we talk about, and we didn't get it done.
We normally do a good, bad, and the ugly at this point, but for me, I think tonight the bad and the ugly are just going to go together, Jared. So we're just going to do a good and the bad for today. But let's start with the good. What was your good for this one? I think it's obvious, but just tell me what you got.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll go with the defense, but I'll go specific. I'll go the defensive backs specifically. I thought all of them played very well. Obviously, we mentioned DQ Smith. He had a great game. I mean, it's unfortunate for him because this is a game you look at DQ Smith and you're like, wow, what a game you want to, hang on your wall, say, I balled out that night, and it doesn't come in a win. Peyton Williams, obviously, with his interception. Overall, I thought the defensive backs played very well.
Yeah, again, my good for the game is defense. I think if you're a South Carolina fan, you have to be thrilled with how they played in this game. And next week it's going to be an elite defense when Oklahoma comes to Columbia. So we might have a defensive showcase next week in Columbia. But let's talk about the bad, Jared. What's the bad for you from today? What's the standout that you just said? This just was not good for the Gamecocks.
Just the mistakes. You should not be making mistakes like this in your sixth game of the season, point blank, period. The way they started the game, the way they finished the game, everything in the middle, just mistake after mistake. I'll give them some slack on that penalty during the fake punt call. I still don't know what exactly that call was for. But aside from that, you can't blame it on that because you had a ton of mistakes, both that showed themselves in penalties and that didn't show up on the penalty sheet, that really forced them to lose this game.
Yeah, I think when you look at South Carolina, every time they had momentum on offense, it was just penalty, penalty, penalty. It would go from a good field position to like 3rd and 28, or something. There were so many false starts on the offensive line. I know we've talked about the sacks and the protection, but the penalties are just killing this team. And so many of them are from the offensive line and from these false starts. Jared, for me, the games at Missouri and here at LSU, as sloppy as South Carolina has played, they've been very winnable. And a lot of it comes down to penalties. They had 14 against Missouri. They had 13 in Baton Rouge tonight. That is 27 penalties against top 15 teams. I mean, you can't win SEC games playing that way, especially with so many on the offensive side. So many of the mistakes are self-inflicted. Shane Beamer has said it in the press conference. It's not like they're not aware of it. And that, I think, is the part that is confusing, is that they are aware of it. They are their own worst enemy in so many ways, but we're seeing the same problems over and over and over. So for them, they have to figure out, what do they change? What adjustments? I don't know what the answer is, but there has to be some changes made. And I know Shane Beamer said in his press conference that they were in the same position last year. They were 3-3, and then they went on that 6-game win streak. But to me, this team this year has not shown me anything of what last year's team was showing this time, because that loss to Alabama, which was their 3rd loss of the season against LSU, South Carolina played well in those losses. I mean, those were good quality losses. This feels like the opposite to me. This feels like South Carolina is losing, and they're just losing in a chaotic way. And even their wins are kind of chaotic, but the losses especially are just chaotic. So I understand what he's saying when he says that, but for me, I don't see the parallel, because I thought South Carolina's was playing really well still, even with those losses last year. And this year's team is just playing the opposite of what we saw 12 months ago.
I agree. It's only a parallel on paper. I mean, you go back and look at those games, and like you mentioned, that Alabama game, South Carolina had Bama on the ropes. You look at the LSU loss, that was a 36-33 loss that had some controversial calls to add to it. So it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like, yeah, they lost, but look how they played. In fact, a lot of times this season, it's felt like, yeah, they won, but look how they played. We're not talking about good play and a loss. We're talking about bad play and wins, and then that play just exacerbates itself in the
Yeah.
losses. So I know he's saying that, and the they regrouped, won those 6 games last year. But here I'm kind of looking at it and seeing the next 4 games, and that thought is starting to come up of will they even be bowl eligible? It might be
Yeah.
early to talk about that, but it's a legit question at this point, I think.
Yeah, I know when you look at the rest of the schedule, they host Oklahoma next week. Oklahoma lost to Texas today on the road, but still a really, really talented team. Then they host Alabama. They go to Ole Miss. They have a bye week. They go to Texas A&M. It's brutal. It is just a
Yeah.
brutal, brutal schedule. And when you look at the way they're playing, Jared, you do have to wonder, will they win any of those games?
Hmm.
Can they sneak out one or two? It's going to be tough. But one thing that I do know is that they have to clean it up. If they don't play cleaner football, it's not gonna, I don't see it getting any better. They have to cut all the penalties. They have to find some kind of offense. They just have so much work to do still. And it almost kind of feels like they're running out of time already, even though we're only 50% of the way through the season. We like to wrap up these instant reaction episodes with our player of the game. Try to end on some positivity, even on nights like this when everyone is feeling frustrated. So, Jared, who is your player of the game for South Carolina?
I'll go Matt Fuller. I was really impressed with him, especially on that 72-yard run. He's doing great things with not many touches in a competitive running back room. Obviously, Oscar Adaway seeing less touches tonight. It seems like with Matt Fuller, getting a bigger role, but and then you still have Rasul Faison to compete against as well. So competitive running back room, but I was really impressed with him, especially after he got his first touchdown last week. It seems like he really is going to be a part of the Gamecocks' future plans, but I'd love to see more from him now, make him part of the current plans.
I think he should get more reps. I think he should get more touches. I think he's been getting better and better every week. I'm with you on that. My player of the game is going to be a guy that we talked about earlier in this episode, and that is DQ Smith, the Spring Valley alum. I just thought he had a fantastic game. I thought he showed up multiple times and really helped be a leader on the defensive end that really put South Carolina in good positions and came up with some absolutely clutch moments today. So my player of the game is DQ Smith. As always, let us know, you guys, your reactions, your comments, your biggest concerns with South Carolina football as we are now halfway through the season. They are 3-3 on the year. They host Oklahoma next Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium, and they did announce on the SEC network that it is officially a 12:45 kickoff here in Columbia. So, Jared, no night game for
No
the first
night
time all
game.
season. The first time all season,
Yeah,
other than the Atlanta game, but that was kind of a weird one. But this is the
it
first.
ended up being a night game for us, kind of.
Yeah, right. We worked late even that night, so we will get an afternoon game, some sunshine at Williams-Brice Stadium. So I'm excited for that. But Brent Venables and the Sooners are coming to Columbia for that one. It's going to be tough. Again, Oklahoma lost today to Texas, but their quarterback's still trying to get healthy. What a whirlwind of a few weeks he's had. So we'll see, next week, and of course we'll have a game day preview of South Carolina, Oklahoma out on Thursday, and then our instant reaction for you guys on Saturday as well. And that one will be released during the day because we will have enough time in the day to put that out the same day as the game. But as always, you guys make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and follow here on YouTube or wherever you guys get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I know it's been frustrating for Gamecock fans. You know, leave us your comments, leave us your thoughts. We like just like, use our podcast to just air out all your feelings. Whatever you guys want to say, let us know your thoughts. Jared, thanks for staying up late, man, and hopping on the pod with me. I got a sleepy puppy in the back, and she's ready to hit the hay. So he's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. We'll see you here next time on South Carolina Sideline.